All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Q&A, your daily dose of coffee Q&A here on the OnoCoffee channel. I'm Jay, your host, and as always, we do this live stream most Monday through Fridays, and I have to say most because we didn't do Monday, Tuesday. Today's Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. So hope you're doing well. How's it going? Hope your weekend was good. Yeah, I thought we were going to do Monday and Tuesday, and then things just kind of got in the way, and life just gets a little bit crazy sometimes. So how's it going? Anton, how are you, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. So we're going to be talking today about post-roast blending. Now, most people in the business today tend to do blending, but they blend the coffees green and then they roast it together. Now, I've done both throughout my career, and there's different reasons to do both. You can get different results out of them. Like sometimes you may find coffees that are maybe, let's say on the extreme, they're wildly disparate coffees. And if you roast them all together, they may not, there's a compromise somewhere to be had there, right? And maybe that compromise, that theoretical compromise may actually be a physical compromise that's apparent. And you just end up with a little bit of coffee that's more diminished than you would like. So you can roast 2 coffees or 3 or 4 or 5 coffees or whatever you want to different roast degrees or different approaches, different rates of rise and how much power you're giving it to at a time, and craft a coffee that way and then blend them together. Or you can just put them all together and mix them. And so I had a client approach me not too long ago, and they were like, hey, we wanted to try this coffee. Would you mind doing an experimental roast or doing just an experimental blend for us, which for their espresso? I was like, sure, of course, be happy to do it. So it's something. What was I put a name on the? I think I put the name on the on the title, and now I can't remember. Russell, how are you? Good to see you. Good morning. And Keone, a lot to you, man. Good to see you. And one of the things I shot this video on Sunday that's coming out tomorrow, and it's one of these things where it's the gift guide, and all of you guys had input in it, and I have this, it turns out that I have this affliction that if I'm like narrating something and I'm on camera and I'm like, let's say I have my notes, I will say at blah, 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 blah. And at the very end of whatever I'm saying, I tend to drift down. Maybe to look at the notes or just to turn away. And I'm like, and in the editing this week, I was like, God, that's just annoying. I need to stop doing that. So when you watch that video tomorrow, you'll see me turn away a lot towards the end of whatever sentence I'm saying. It's very strange affliction. So in this particular case, they were like, so I was like, let's put together a coffee. So I got this Colombian washed, and I also have this natural Ethiopian and Yirgacheffe Ethiopian, small holder farmers, and then the washed Colombia is from Tolima. And the Colombian, I was like, okay, well, let's do that a little bit. We'll pull that a little bit darker, and we'll pull back, and then we're going to keep the Ethiopian kind of on its normal. So I got a whole bucket of it here. Well, I just have the leftover that wasn't part of their order that they didn't. Again, you can't see it. But you can see that shade variation now, right? Kent, how are you? Good to see you. And you can see the shade variation. So let's see if we can get a better look at it by getting our bowl. There we are. Yeah, as I said, I was watching another live stream just a little while ago just to see what it looked like. And yeah, it's really much darker here. Like, I wonder if I can, on my reference monitor, I always say this too, right? That's a little bit better. That's a little more, the coffee kind of looks like to my eye in person. So there is shade variances, right? You can see that there are some darker roasts, some lighter roasts in there. So this is actually a 3-bean blend, and there is the third bean is actually a medium roasted Nicaragua from Hirotega. And I mixed a little bit of that pear notes coffee that you've seen that we talked about before. I mixed a little bit in it, roasted. So I roasted all these separately, and then just in the quantities that I thought would work. And then we tasted, and I liked it, and then we did it again. PowerPoint says, typing on my new mechanical keyboard. Nice, nice. Some of these are definitely a second crack, like the darker ones are past just a little bit, like this one, a little bit past second. Can you see that? That doesn't make any sense, does it? Yeah, some of them are a little bit past second crack. Some are just past first. And, so that's kind of the idea behind it. So I wanted to give this kind of dichotomy, this yin and yang, black and white kind of, black and tan kind of approach to it. But I think as an espresso together, it makes a nice whole. And the response from the client was very positive. So that's always a positive thing. Like, no matter how long that I may be doing this, and I may think that, oh yeah, I kind of know what I'm doing, maybe, right? I'll release a coffee, and I'm like 94% sure that it's great or good, right? And then the other part where I'm like, maybe I'm off. Like, I always wonder, like, we did this take when I mentioned last week or something about the Davidoff tasting that we did, and I brought this coffee, that the same one I'm using here, and as a small component to it. It's like 10% of it, right? But I like the coffee. I think it's really nice. But I've had it quite a lot, and so there's part of me that's always kind of like, do I really like it? Is it really good? I don't know if it's really good or not. And so you bring it to an event and you share with people, and then they're like, oh yeah, we really love it. They're like, okay, good, thank goodness. I wasn't sure. I'm never 100% sure, right? So since this is designed to be an espresso, we're going to brew it as an espresso today to try it. And yeah, and actually we're doing this coffee today because I was going to do a whole different coffee for Tuesday, because we roasted some coffee on Monday morning. And I was going to show you the 3 different coffees that we roasted, or the 3 different profiles that we roasted yesterday, and taste them. But the problem is, once the ability to do yesterday's show disappeared, that was really kind of the final window for me to cup that coffee within 24 hours, so that it wouldn't be too far into its degassing phase, so that you would get a lot of occlusion of and the flavors would be obscured. So that was like, okay, well, we're going to push that off and then do this. And then now that will become part of next week's slate at some point. And so, yeah, let's put it, we're going to put it in the machine, give it a try. Now, one thing I also want to do is I was listening to the live stream as I've been editing this other video. I had to pull some footage off of other live streams. So I was like, listening to some of it, I was like, gosh, I really kind of don't like the way this sounds. To me, it sounds fairly thin, right? And I was like, what's up with that, right? Now, I don't know how you guys listen to the show or hear the show. Like, if you're listening on your phone, I'm not sure if it translates as well, but I tend to watch and even if I'm watching on a laptop, I think I can tell that too. But if I'm typically watching YouTube at my desktop, which has not super sophisticated, but a fairly sophisticated audio system, right? It's a system that's designed for near field reference monitoring, so that I can, better edit audio in a near field setting. So I wonder if it pulls a lot more. But I think if I've listened to it on other sources, it still sounds kind of hollow to me. And I don't know if that sounds hollow to you, but I wanted to try something today. This is the transmitter I've been using. This is the Rode Wireless Go. And this is what I use for the actual recorded videos. This is the Rode Wireless Go 2. This is the second generation of this microphone. There is a third generation, and I've got this connected to the other camera source that we're going to be using. And I think it should all work together. So I'm going to switch off of that. I'm going to clip this here as well, so it'll be as close as possible. Actually, be a little bit closer. So you tell me which sounds better to you. So we're going to go to the other microphone. Now, this is the Wireless Rode Go 2. and it looks like it is transmitting through the system. So let me know if this sounds better. Like I feel like, and on this one I will have to go listen to later, but I feel like, what I've been recording on this camera here for recorded videos, to me just sounds better than whenever I happen to listen to it on. Now, I don't know if it's part of the signal path that's happening, right? Because these are going out they're going not just to the cameras, but the cameras are translating and pushing it through HDMI into our switcher, which pushes it to the computer, which pushes it to YouTube. So I don't know how much of that really impacts the sound. No, it sounds as bad. It sounds worse. Q&A says, "Thought of mixing some at different roast levels, but thought it was a crazy idea. As if it was a good one, someone would have." I mean, people do it. People do it. It's just a matter of the situation that people want. And most people, and to be honest with you, post roast blending is much more difficult to do. It sounds very tin canny. So you're saying this sounds more tin canny than this? Is that correct? The Power Plant wants to know, did you have any input on the new live action Moana film? And Keone says, just seen the movie clip. I do know some people that were involved with that and did provide them with some tattoo tools. So there may be a tattoo scene. Ooh, that'd be cool. That would be cool. They should have brought you in. They should have brought you in for like a good week. Wherever I presume they shot in New Zealand, not in Honolulu, right? So should have brought you to like the Ritz-Carlton, put you up there for a week, and then, paid you a good stipend to be there, meals, transpo, everything. That's what you want. All right, so so the sound is just as bad, huh? Well, that's disappointing. All right. What if we do both? This is both. Now, is that worse? Am I coming in stereo? So if I took them off, would I be in stereo? Like if I came here, whoops. Would this be stereo for you? The new microphone was better in my opinion. Sorry, Power Plant. They actually shot it in Hawaii and Georgia. Oh, on the stage in Georgia. That makes sense. All right, let me turn this one off. Now, all right. So we're on to the new generation microphone at the moment, and maybe I'll have to sell the old one and get a new one. All right, let's make our coffee. We're gonna take our coffee and put it in the grinder. Now, remember how before I mentioned that, my perspective as a professional is a little bit more skewed and kind of, unrealistic as to how I manage coffee. And this, I think this just kind of underscores it. Like, this is the kind of quantity I'm used to keeping around, right? Like full buckets that hold 15 pounds of coffee. So when you're holding like buckets and buckets of coffee at a coffee shop and you're making coffee, the level of frugality with your coffee is a little bit skewed because you're not necessarily worried that you only have a pound or maybe 10 ounces or 12 ounces of coffee to maximize and to utilize to its fullest extent. Like if you need to burn a shot or two, you can, because you have plenty to back you up, and it is a kind of a mission critical kind of situation. So this is not meant to be a flex. It's just meant to be like, this is like why my perspective can be skewed at times for that. So we're going to put that in here. And so, you just kind of pour it in. I don't know how much this really is left over. All right, now I've already cleared out the coffee from the hopper, but I did not clear out the grinder, or the grind hopper. So that should give us a good amount of coffee that is now flushed out the burrs, and then I'm just going to brush out any excess that might be floating around. saw that. Oh, speaking of which, so I was just thinking, Craig messaged me this morning on Instagram, and he was like, hey, there's a guy on homebarista.com that has the fellow ode Gen 2 that has jamming issues, and are very similar to yours. And what he has 2 odes, one that jams, one that doesn't. So he's like, I'm not sure where we're leading yet with that, but maybe there's some correlation and maybe there's going to be some resolution. And to that, I finally got some response from a fellow. Like my first email to fellow, I sent to customer service. I said, hey, guys, what is the deal with this? This is like happened 3 times now, right? And I said to them, and here are the links to the videos where this is happening and my repairs to them. And here's the time, like the most recent one last week. I said, this is the timestamp exactly when it happens, right? So you can see exactly, and I say this in the email, I said, so you can see exactly what's happening, because I don't know how to explain this to you, but you can see it and you would know. And like the first time I wrote to them and I did this, I get the email response back and they're like, could you send us a couple of details, like what coffee you're using, blah, what were you doing? And I was like, how much quantity were you? I was like, I just sent you a link so that you could have all these questions answered, and you wanted me to answer more questions that could be found in. I was just, and it always exasperates me when that happens. But I wrote back. I said, okay, here's the information that you're asking for, but it was included in the link. Had you looked at the link? Then I got a response after the weekend, and I was like, oh, and they're like, I would like to know what the deal is, like what's wrong with the grinder, not just like, oh, we're going to send you a new grinder, which is cool. You're going to send me a new grinder, but I'd like to know what the problem is so that I can maybe help to avoid the issue in the future or whatever. So they're sending me a new one. And now with Craig telling me that, they've got this one guy has this, now we go, maybe we'll keep both and run both and see like, when do the issues begin? I don't know. That's what's happening with that. Oh, Anton says, I like this new microphone. Oh, you can tell the difference. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is a newer generation of microphone. I presume that the 2 roads be equal. They're 5 years apart or something or a couple years apart. Anton says, Georgia Power Plant says Georgia gives so many tax breaks for productions, but I heard they're trying to stop that. Like, which it's dumb. Like, in Maryland, we had a lot of tax breaks in the 90s for production. So a lot of movies shot here. That was when I got into the business, and it was really, really great for a long time. And then David Simon made a TV show called The Wire, which The Wire, if you haven't seen it, is different. Each season was different, and they had different stories about different aspects of Baltimore. I think the 3rd or 4th season, they did a season about the corrupted mayor of Baltimore that was played by, I think they called him Corradetti, is that right? But anyway, whatever the case may be, if you're from Baltimore, it was about Martin O'Malley, the mayor, kind of around that time, right before that. And it was about him. And when he became governor, he was so pissed off. He was so pissed off about David Simon and HBO making this television series that depicted him in a poor light that he canceled all of the tax incentives and drove production away from Maryland for at least 5 years. So like the regular working class person is who suffered, like the working class technicians. David Simon's gonna like make a movie or make videos or make TV with HBO, and they can make it anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world for that matter. It's the technicians that are here that have to suffer that, So yeah. So David Simon made that show. He was not wrong. He was not wrong. I know Vancouver has done the tax break thing for years too. They use, Vancouver. I know they do tax incentives up there. Because we've always had a problem with something we call in the United States, we call runaway production, which means that shows are going to shoot, especially in Canada. And That's why you see in a lot of these big shows that come out, like let's say Battlestar Galactica, or there's a certain genre that I follow. So Battlestar Galactica and like Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, a lot of the secondary actors are Canadian because they're local to that shooting center, right? Like Battlestar shot in Vancouver, and what's it called? Strange New World shoots in Toronto. So you get a lot of like the person that plays Jenna Mitchell in Strange New Worlds is she's Canadian. She's Canadian. Wrong. She's under Instagram under Wrong Ideas. Wrong idea. Wrong something. She's fun to watch. She's an actress, but really into pottery. So I'm kind of like, oh, I have a kinship with her. I'm a coffee guy that's really into woodworking. Anyway, see, and then Anton says it sounds like the motor lottery on the Ode. Oh, it does. It really does. It really does. You and that home barista user should start a class action lawsuit. I mean, we haven't had any kind of injury or anything like that. I mean, is it really putting me out any money? Like, it's irritating, but I don't know what the class. Plus, who makes money in the class action law? Like, we get these class action lawsuits. What do you get? $10? What am I doing with $10, man? Give me $100,000. Then maybe it's worth it. And Power Plant says Stranger Things season 5, part 1 tomorrow. Oh, nice. I still haven't watched it. Anton says you're becoming the old collector. I mean, I feel like it now. I feel like it. When you come at the king, you best know. That's a good one. Terry says, when I had the O Gen 2, I was getting wild inconsistency with retention up to 1.5 grams under what was put in. Just happened about 3 months after use. Sent the mail, and they said it was within tolerances. Really? Up to 1.5? But I don't know. Like we talked about when I was, cleaning out the ode, it's like, I'm not understanding where buildup comes, because if we're putting in 24.2 grams, we're typically getting 24.2 grams out. So, I mean, like maybe there's minute particles that are building slowly. I mean, I don't know. It's very, very, and to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm getting a new, I mean, I'm sure I think they've sent a bunch of new grinders to me, but, am I getting another grinder because, I've been able to document it in a way that most people don't, or are unable to, or, yeah. So I'm like, so I can't answer that question, how much consideration is me doing this YouTube giving towards them sending another one, right? Because here I get to say that, oh, they're going to send me another one. Whereas, potentially the reach is bigger. I don't know. Anyway, let's go make some espresso here. All right, now let us go over here. Anton says 1.5 gram retention is maddening. Yes. Okay, so there's our setup. Let me get this brush out of the way. All right, now. Oh, that's bad. Look, I have coffee in from the last time we used this. Poor practices in action. All right, like I said, I like to rinse it out, put it back in, and let it drip out so that I can prevent extra mess from happening on my workspace. And then I'm going to make sure that we wipe it out and that it's all dry, right? So it's nice and dry in there. And then grind. Now, I have not changed the grind setting since the last time, so we're going to see what happens. Now, you can see as it fell in here, it's not so even, right? There's more coffee on this side than there was on this side. There's a little bit of boulder here. There's also a little bit of a valley in setting there. So when I'm thinking about what I'm going to do for distribution, I'm going to come across here, and basically I'm going to push it in. I'm going to push it in here. But I'm also not just going this way because I want to make sure I don't lose the coffee. So I'm going to push it a little bit and then come back around. And that's going to fill in there. Bring it back to the center. and kind of leave a little bit of a mound. And in this case, I'm going to leave it. Put the tamper on, feel around, make sure that it's level, regrip, and then tamp, and then give a little quarter turn to polish. Not bad. Wipe off the wings. Oh, gosh. Flush the group head. Lock in the portafilter. That's nice and snug, but not too difficult to put in. And I like to, I always like to hold the cup here to make sure that it falls in and I can catch the stream. And oh, it looks like we're getting pretty decent. That's not bad. Good color, good flow, maybe slightly fast. Okay, right there, that little shake, that should be done. And, suggestions of nice crema. Let's have a look over here. I think that looks pretty. We are zoomed all the way in. It looks pretty good. Why does it look so blue? Maybe that's the problem. Anyway, but it's a nice looking crema. I'm a big fan of this kind of crema. So, and you can see here the just slightly little dots, a little bit of blonding right there, which should indicate that we're like right when we should stop. Oh, interesting. Like you would think that, okay, so you probably look at the coffees and you're like, oh, that's kind of dark roast. It's going to be really dark. It's not really dark. It does like enhance the bitterness a little bit, but there's actually quite a bit of orange peel kind of coming through. But it's definitely not a bright cup. It's not a bright light cup. Actually, I would say it's more medium bodied, a good amount of undertone of sweetness, some orange peel, bitterness, some dark chocolate. Actually, that's pretty darn good. But definitely, if you're light roasted kind of espresso person, this is going to be a very big departure, right? You're going to have much heavier bitter notes, much heavier notes on it than you're used to. Keone says, I ended up giving to a friend, telling him of the issues, couldn't find it in myself to sell it as it was, got an option O casa for pour overs and been really happy. Awesome. Here's the interesting thing. Like when the first ode broke down and I couldn't figure it out, Craig was like, can I have it? I was like, yeah, you can, because I remember I told you, I said, if anybody wants it, I'll send it to you, right? So I sent it up to him, and I think he has not reported any issues since. So in that particular case, there was a electronics issue, and he rectified it, but no jam issue. So maybe there's something wrong with some of them that have, like you said, it's the lottery. So maybe what we'll do is that when I get the new one, I will run them both and then see which one, see if one actually has. Power Plant says, RIP to Tiger. You mean you don't like Tiger strips, or you want them to die, or you miss them? Anton says, Optional has become my favorite grinder company. Really? I thought you were a Titus guy. The customer support always got your back. And, I don't know Optional, but I got to say, fellow has been, despite these like moments of like, did you listen? Did you read the message that I sent you and look at the links? Because why are you asking me these redundant questions? Aside from that, they've actually been very good to work with as far as like, hey, I've got an issue. Well, we're going to send you a new one. Well, all right. I mean, it does erode the confidence in some ways. Like my friend Matt, he's had his like third or fourth 8-in. He got the newest one. He's just like, I'm just gonna sell it to somebody. I don't want to deal with it anymore. But he's like, I've had enough of it. I saw it at his workshop. It's just sitting there in the box, and I was like, oh, my, that's terrible. But I mean, I'm a relatively. Oh, there's more sweetness developing as it goes. That's really kind of nice.
I'm really more of a simple user as far as demands from a grinder. Like, will it grind coffee to the point that I need it? Will it do it consistently? Will it do it reliably? Okay, if it does that, I'm fairly happy with it. Oh, actually, man, that's 3 weeks into it. It's much better than I expected. Much better than I expected out to be, or at least I'm enjoying it more than I expected out. Well, I don't have a Titus. You know, man, I was looking at this Titus's, and I was like, holy. And I don't know if I said this the other day, but there is a hand plane company out in the world, and high end. I probably can't find it. And anyway, whatever the case may be, it reminds me of, yeah, it reminds me, seeing the Titus website reminded me of this plane company because this one guy makes like hand planes, like $4,000. It's like wildly expensive, but you look at it and like, and like that. So the Titus to me is a little bit disappointing, right? Because it looks like they're using the same design as the old VersaLab, and I have I have beef with the old VersaLab people. Like I don't have very positive things to say about VersaLab. So as a company, but so anytime I see VersaLab looking like grinders, I was kind of like, but what I'm saying is that like with this hand plane company, right? These things are like immaculate. They're immaculate, right? You look at the machining, you look at the everything about you, like God, that is like jeweler level, like kind of like finishing, right? Will the hand plane plain wood better than, let's say, a Lee Nielsen or even like a Stanley, an old vintage? No, probably not. Like it'll be very similar. The result will be the same. But the machining quality and probably the pleasure of using it will be like super awesome. And so that's what I was thinking about the Titus. I was looking at that. I was like, I mean, it looks like it's well made. Like the machining is just like gorgeous. I'm just like, what is that about? So I think that's really. Like, I don't know if it'll be better for. I don't think it'll make better coffee, but I think it's gonna make. I think it'll make great coffee. Like the grind quality will be great. I imagine. I presume. But I think what you get out of it is just more like the aesthetic or just the look of it. The machine just like, oh, like I'm the kind of person that would be sitting there like. Power plant asked why the VersaLab dislike. Oh, because we had like big disagreements with their people, with their ownership back in the day. So I've always had they put a big distaste in my mouth for them. So I've always been very tepid on the VersaLab. Tepid. Tepid is the best way to describe it. Anton says, maybe if I had to do it all over again, I would start with, you could just sell everything and buy the Titus, right? Sell everything, buy the Titus, and then buy the Manamint leather. Just buy it all. Just buy it all. I mean, really, honestly, if you were to go out and buy the Manamint leather and the Titus together, you would have one of the most ultimate setups, at least for a year, right? Maybe two. Most people lease a car for 2 years, so it's fine, right? $30,000. Is that too much? Right? 30,000 would give you the Manamint leather, the Titus, DRM, and I guess it'll cover shipping, right? 30,000, and then you'd be golden. You get a tamper, you get some coffee, perfect. Be lovely, be lovely. I think you should do it. Anton says, I heard the main guy from VersaLab passed away. Ling Long actually had some kind of deal going on with them, so Ling Ling now uses the last few VersaLab DRM burrs to make a few DRM. Is Ling? I'm not familiar with Ling Ling. Who or what is Ling Ling? Power plant asked, were you going to buy some? Well, you thought about it, but we didn't think about it after talking to them. I mean, what were the exact details of my issues? Honestly, this was like now 20 years ago. So it's probably about around 2005, 2006, somewhere 2007 maybe, when all this went down. And I think I might have wrote about it in my blog. But 20 years later, I just I don't recall exactly what the details were. I just remember it still today that I had a very sharp disdain for them because of my interactions with them, and I was never the lab ever. And I still today, 20 years later, I still don't have anything positive to say about them. Like, I understand that people like the grinders and that it does nice quality grind, but you know what? I'm sure the current president of the United States does something good for people, but I just can't. I just don't, and I probably never will. Anton says that there's many options with the levers, and management ain't it. Oh, really? I thought that you were all about the management. I thought you'd be all about that. Well. And Linglong is a Chinese grinder manufacturer who makes extreme precision grinders at a very good price, but it's infamous to drive you insane during the. Paige, good morning to you. How are you doing, Paige? All right, let's do another shot of the espresso and see if we can replicate the results. So let's have a look here. Good puck, good impaction. I always like the pucks to be well impacted so you can kind of see. In this particular case, you can see the ring of the dispersion screen in the exterior. Some espresso machines, the dispersion screen is held in the center by a screw, like on a Lamarzocco, and you'll see that indentation there. I like it to be clean, dry, and firm. When I press down it, I like it to be firm. And then let's knock out the puck. Whoops, don't knock out the basket. Just the puck would be good. And then we want to look here because I like to look at the basket bottom to see, just to see what happened. Like, is it clean? And in this particular case, it is clean. Remember on the crema, I showed you there was two little spots where it was starting to become blonde. And then we had a little bit of the wavering, right? When we stopped it. These are like, it's the fluttering of the stream that tells me, oh, I'm finished and that I should stop. And this helps to confirm whether I was good in my timing or not with stopping. And then after that, it's then the flavor. It's what's apparent in the cup that tells me, okay, that was, and in this case, I thought the shot was very good. Like, I was like, oh, that's very good. Really, really acceptable, really, really enjoyable. And these are the things that we use to confirm that. Because like I said, in a professional situation, or even in your case at home, if you're making drinks for other people, for your friends that are over your house, you're not going to pull the shot and be like, let me taste it to make sure it tastes right. You're going to have to rely upon all the different cues to tell you, oh, this is the goal that I'm looking for. And a lot of these things that I'm telling you, it stems from my experience working with coffees that we've developed. So there's certain parameters that we've found that are important. And I do believe that this is all universal. Like, a lot of it is, the way that the liquid flows out of the spouts and how it flutters will tell you at any point, or for any coffee, that that it's ready to stop. It's ready to stop. So these are the things that we use. And so you can use that and hopefully, and then these are things that, as we're working, we'll take that out, maybe and really it's always, once you get used to it, it's really a fast. It doesn't, like, we're talking here and I'm like, oh, when you press down and look at it and look at these details in a normal workflow, you don't really, after you've learned what you're looking for, you can look at it. If you have a question, then you can press. And then when you knock it out, you're going to knock it out and then you're going to go back to the machine with it. So you could, you knock it out, and before you go back into the portafilter, you can already see here, whether or not there's residue left. And then you rinse. And then you rinse. And then and then you let it sit back, and then you move to the next drink. So it's very, it can be done very, very smoothly and very quickly, like just a moment's notice to look at it and see whether or not, you're getting the results that you hope to get. Like there's what we intend and what we hope and what we actually get that could be very different. All right, so let's do some more grinding. Okay, that's good. Again, we're having, like, I'm holding the grinder here today, and this is, I think these are all environmental condition based, is that we're getting a little bit of static because you can see there's a little bit of boulders here, little boulders there. And the way that it's coming out, and sometimes it comes out straight and it just kind of fills everything. But today it's coming out a little bit to the left. That's my left. Your right. This way to the left. And we're getting a little bit more. We don't have as much of a valley here today, but we've got a little bit of a valley there. Some boulders again. Same kind of setup as last time. And again, we're going to come back around, sweep it this way, back, back. Now here, I'm going to leave it, even though I feel like this may be just a little bit too much. I feel like it's a little bit too much, but we're going to see. We're going to see. Same temper. Make sure that, now here's something I noticed. There's a little bit of water right here. You can't really see it, but there's a little bit of water right there. So I'm going to wipe that. And if you see a little bit of water on the surface where you keep your temper, you want to check your temper, right? In this particular temper, hope that doesn't walk away. There's a little bit of water right there. We want to make sure that your temper is dry. Otherwise, it will stick, and then you'll have issues with the coffee sticking here. So once you pull it off, it's going to stick, and you're going to have, you really want a smooth and clean surface. So I'm going to put this back down on top. Again, use opposing fingers to feel around and adjust the level of the temper. Then come back with your grip. Press down and slight twist. Quarter turn twist is good. And we have a clean puck again. I like to wipe off that. I'll also use my palm to wipe this off. Now, I strongly urge you to, if you want to use this palm technique to clean off the rim, make sure your hand is slightly, I'm exaggerating here, but you want to make sure this is bowed so that you're not gouging into your bed. Okay, so let's flush the group. And how about let's do another shot. Oh, that's about probably about the same as last time. Now, one thing you also have to maintain is that once you've done this all nicely, you don't have to ouch. See, this is a little bit of an issue that you may run into. You want to make sure you lock in the group head completely. In this case, it must not have been fully locked because the pressure was building up and it forced the portafilter down. And if it can get enough purchase, if the pressure can get enough purchase, not only will it force the portafilter, it's forcing the portafilter down, but if it has enough purchase, it will actually force it down, and which means that because your locking lugs inside the group head are sloped, so it actually will force it down and cause it to turn. And I don't know if you saw that, but as you saw, it started to actually move. I could see the handle moving because it was here, and it just moves slowly as if pressure is building. And then once it reaches a point where there's enough of a gap between the rim and the gasket, since it's all 135 psi or 1.5 atmospheres of pressure, it's just gonna, or actually 8 atmospheres of pressure, it's just gonna shoot out. And that's what happened. Got on my hand, a little bit burned. It got on all the cups here. So not the ideal. And so the puck's still kind of, but let's have a look at, we'll take that on. You can see here, very, very much, quite a bit of oils. The oils, like I said before, the oils tell us where we are, or whether or not we're under extracted, over extracted. But it's up to you to know where you are in the process to really determine whether or not it's over or under. Now, this is the extreme example. So this case, we're just starting the shot, and the shot never really came to fruition. And so that means that we are under extracted, right? But you will see oils show themselves even if you're over extracted. But you kind of have to know where you are in the process to really determine that, right? All right, let's clean up again, and we'll restart our shot. Oh, that looked nice and thick too, that shot. It's bad when this happens because now I have to clean up and make sure everything's nice. And I'm very kind of OCD. The problem is, though, is that I've got white countertops here, which is just makes me insane. Okay, we're all ready to go now. Let me see what happened with the commentaries. Any thoughts that I'm missing here? Oh no, somebody else mentioned the monument. Oh, gotcha. Craig's with us. Oh, Craig, you must have been your ears must have been tingling because we were just talking about you and how I told them that you messaged me about the guy on Home Barista that has the two odes, and when the new one comes, they're sending me a new one. I'm going to see what happens. Well, I'll keep them both now this time and see if there's performance differences, or maybe what we'll do is we'll run the new one, straight and see how long it'll last us to, and then I'll try to figure out how many times I've actually used this particular grinder before failures to see if there's a comparison to be had. All right, let's go back to see if we can make espresso more successfully this time. All right, so let's go back. Like I said, you always want to make sure your portafilter is clean. And you can see in here, it's, wet. Grinds are left over. Oh, another thing we want to check now this time, because we did have this problem with the overflow, we want to make sure that we get a little bit in here with our rag, just in case there's any kind of, I see there was a little bit that fell out. So that could be an issue, right? If there's coffee, between the gasket and the rim of your gasket and the basket, then you could have some issues. Okay, now let's go back. Now this time I was a little bit more conscious about how it's falling in, so I actually kind of pushed it over more to the left, even though I thought I'd been holding more to the left the whole time, and then I rotated it slightly up to the left from the right to get some coffee into the area that has been kind of valleyed. You can still see there's a little bit of valley, a little bit of bouldering here, so we're still having some issues. Now I'm going to just sweep it around. Now I don't have to sweep around as much because our coverage is different. Now I do feel like that's a little bit heavy, and typically I will just kind of use my finger here, right? Let me do this over this way, and I will just a little bit, just to knock that off, clean it up a little bit, make sure that our tamper is fresh, and then come down again. We're going to make sure that we have even on all sides. Tap, twist, and then we have there we go. All right, so now we're going to pull that shot and see if we can make success with this. All right, let's go in here. Oh, that is a little bit more than before. So even though we swept a little bit off, that was actually pretty tight. How you doing? Our HVAC tech is here today. Okay, so the shot nice and tight, like it's falling pretty tight. It's not as loose as it was, so we can, there's just maybe like another gram or two, half a gram more. Okay, there's that flux, right? That flutter tells us when we're done. No matter where we are in the shot, like if we look at this from a volume standpoint, it's pretty low from volume standpoint, but it is at the point where it needs to be. So you can see here, the volume wise, definitely lower. And you can see that in comparison to this one, right? That one comes up to the, oh, there is no Lambrusco in this one, but you can see this, this is light. It is a lesser volume, but the crema is nice and thick. So we're always stopping it when the shot says to stop rather than trying to determine. Just there's a lot of variables, or there's a lot of standards that people will say, like, it should be ounce and a half, 2 ounces, it should be this, it should be that, some weight or whatever. And those are important aspects to cover. However, when it comes down to it, it's all to me about letting the coffee speak to you when it's being made so that you can know when it's time to stop and to make the best possible coffee that you possibly can. Let's have a look here again. So good crema there. Craig says he solved the issues on his ode. Oh, good. Good to see that. Let's have a taste. You don't have to tiptoe. It's all. And so the profile is a little bit different. This time it's a little bit brighter than the other one. Sweetness is still good. And yeah, just through that door, I'll tell you where the light is. And that's really quite different than the last one. Huh. There's actually more milk chocolate notes. That orange peel that we had in the previous shot, not really even there. So that's very, very interesting as far as the results. That's, definitely softer. Like that milk chocolate, like that chalky milk chocolate is really kind of the heavy note. Craig says that basically ionizers don't like being coated with coffee oils, i.e. they don't like darker roasts. So regularly clean the ionizer wires with alcohol or remove the ionizer. Physics remains undefeated. Yes, but what is darker roasts? Like, what are we talking? Anything like there's first crack, and then there's, let's say, 10 seconds past first crack, 20 seconds past first crack, 40 seconds past first crack, which is almost second crack, right? At what point do these ionizers think is too dark? This is meant to be a curious question rather than anything else. All right, so let's do one more, and we're going to do as an Americano, right? But let's have a look at our puck. So again, good impaction. This is definitely, so there's more coffee, right? Even though we knocked some off, where there's more coffee. This is where kind of like your feeling comes in. Like I'm knocking off a little bit of that coffee because it looked like there was too much. And it's still it's not, I wouldn't say necessarily it's too much, but definitely a little bit more than the previous shot, right? So, but you can kind of feel the difference in the impaction, even though they're all both very tight. There is a discernible difference. Oh, and now we ran a little bit long, I think. I think we might have, did we run a little bit long? Maybe we ran a bit short. I don't know, maybe we ran a little bit long because there was that flutter. Maybe we could have gone, but it was kind of bright, so I don't know if I want to run it longer. Right, now we're going to try to see if we can do what we were unable to do the last couple times we made espresso, and that is, can we successfully make an Americano? I've got water on the boil, and we're going to use our 6-ounce cappuccino cup. I just like 6-ounce Americanos. It's just a preference thing. I mean, I could use a 12-ounce cup and make 12-ounce Americanos, but typically we've already gone through all this. We've gone through all this. So let's do that. I'm gonna get rid of these cups. Water's boiling. So let's get our portafilter prepared for the shot. Again, just make sure that it's nice and clean and dry on the inside here. Now, in my generation of coffee people, we always use these grinders, which I still like, and there was always this whole thing about clacking it. I tried many years ago to try to get away from that. Now, this is a lot of coffee on here. Like I feel like that's a lot of coffee. Like, look at that. That is just like a preponderance of coffee. So I'm gonna again just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. See, this is where, again, like when I said earlier about the difference as far as like, maybe it could be considered as like coffee arrogance as far as how we utilize coffee. professionally versus as an enthusiast, because we got so much, so just we're not gonna we're not pre-measuring it typically, and we're just kind of going for it. Oh, there's definitely more coffee in here. Like I can feel that, to feel the resistance. Okay, so wipe all that off again. Flush our group head. Now, in this particular case, we're going to put our cup here. We're going to get our water. I got hot water off the boil, so it's going to be nice and hot. And then we're going to pull the shot and go straight into it. Oh, yeah. See, now we got so much more coffee in there. It's a little bit more difficult to put into the portafilter or into the group head. Come on, baby. Oh, it's taking a long time. Look at that. Look how slow that is. There's definitely much more resistance to the water from the coffee because there's just so much more coffee in there. Maybe like another gram or two. But we're getting good buildup of the crema. There's that flutter. Could have been nicer. Could have been better flowing. Could have probably used just a little bit less coffee in there. Now we've got little tetas. All right, let's see here. All right. Yeah. See, that's a little bit, the black part's not ideal. The way that it's swirling like that, kind of like I don't even know what that is, like some kind of 1920s Art Deco looking thing. Perhaps not the prettiest, right? Like you could say this is an owl. Say that's an owl. You could say that's a dog. Oh, that's a dog. That's a dog. That's an owl. That's kind of haunting. The ionizer was a wonderful idea, says Power Plant, but in practice, I hear you. All right, let's give it a try. Huh. All right, definitely more brightness like it was the second shot, and a little bit thinner. I think there's something about having it a lot more compacted, so the flow rate slows it down, that it's harder to get that richness that we had in the very first shot. So really need to maybe trim back on that, but that's going to be good. That's going to be good. The first grinder to use it was the Akaya. Oh, I didn't realize that. All right, so what we need is accompaniment to our Americano. And the problem with this Americano, it's already breaking. What if I want it to hold? I want the crema to hold strong like bull, right? That's what I want. But let's do some accompaniment with this. And I brought this cookie that I thought might be kind of fun. Well, I don't know, but I think it'd be fun. And we have new Oreo here. This is the Oreo by Selena Gomez. I don't know if you guys know Selena. Selena is a very popular artist in the United States. She's an artist, an actress. She's a musician and used to date Justin Bieber many, many years ago. Thank God she broke up with him. That guy was a fool for her. But Selena is in the TV show Only Murders in the Building. Really, really interesting kind of young performer. And I was a big fan of her namesake, Selena Quintanilla. And if you're not familiar with Selena Quintanilla was a what we call a Tejano pop star. Tejano is basically Texas, Latinos of Texas, Mexicans of Texas, Tejano music. There's a whole genre of music that's known as Tejano music from the Texas area. And in the 90s, early 90s, Selena was an up-and-comer in the scene there. And just as she was huge, then she became huge in the Tejano music scene. And just as she was getting ready to make a true transition into the mainstream pop world, in 1995, she was gunned down by her fan club president, Yolanda Salazar, who killed her at a motel when Selena found out that she was embezzling money from the fan club. So very sad, but Selena Gomez's parents were big fans of Selena Quintanilla, and so when they had Selena Gomez, they named her Selena after Selena, and but So what is the cookie? Now, as you can see here, I have already been experimenting with these. I have to quality control them. Very important things to do. Craig says they did it right with the ionizer outside the grind path. Oh, is that Akaya or is that somebody else? Something S. And Power Plant says Gomez is married to the troublesome. Yeah, I know that was really disappointing. It's like, why are you marrying that dude? I like your wife. Don't like you, man. Don't like you. I mean, well, whatever. So what is this? Selena. So this is Selena's chocolate and cinnamon cream cookies. So there's cinnamon cream with chocolate cream stacked on it. So if we look here, let's grab one. Then on one side, there's the typical Oreo. Those of you who may not be from the United States, Oreo is like a huge deal here in America, right? Like we're like obsessed with this cookie. Like everybody loves it. And the way that Americans like to eat it, I know there's other ones. It actually Oreo is actually the ripoff cookie, but it's the one that made it huge. The original one is called. What is the original called? The original one is called. I can't remember. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I could totally see the logo, but I can't think of it. But anyway, Nabisco with Oreo ripped them off, and Hydrox cookies. And then the rest is history. So people like to eat it by tearing the two parts, tearing the two cookies off, the two chocolate wafers off, and then eating the shortening. This is actually shortening, some kind of this is terrible stuff for you. This is just bad. I think it used to be lard with sugar, like powdered sugar. So it's terrible. And now I think it's maybe hydrogenated vegetable oil with sugar. Again, terrible, but heartwarming nonetheless. But this case, they have chocolate cream with a cinnamon cream. And typically here in America, how people like to eat it, they like to eat it so that they will eat the filling first and then eat the cookie, right? And because it's a hydrogenated oil, even though they've been in contact for God knows how long, the cookie is still crisp all by itself. So it never softens. It doesn't contain moisture. Now the other side has Selena's thing. So it says here, what does it say here? Selena. Oh, Selena. I guess these are her fan clubs. Selena Tours. I guess I'm a Selena Tour. Now, is this I mean, it's good. Cinnamon, chocolate, hydrogenated sugar oil. What more can you ask for? And together with the coffee, that's kind of fun. That's pretty good. I kind of dig it. Hydrox. Thank you, Craig. Thank you. Now, let's do one more. I'm going to do another one. But this time, we're going to have the full experience. Look, there's different. This one has a heart with I don't know what that means. So let's see. Selena Tours. There's the heart. Oh, there's another. This one has a happy smiley face. Oh, that's cute. Oh, there's, I was eating all these. I didn't even notice. This one is a burning heart. Is that right? Burning heart. Oh, wow. There's a music. Oh, these are music notes. I only saw this one as I was eating them before, and I just thought they're all the same. Okay, so these are you know what? I should take a photo of these because. All right. I'm just taking selfies of this. All right, so let's have another one. We're going to use the corazon that's en fuego. Power Plant says, like the boxer Ryan Garcia, Gomez in the generation of Latin Americans who don't natively speak Spanish. Well, I mean, but how, I think that's the American condition, right? Those who grow up in America, even from an ethnicity, tend not to speak the language unless, like a lot of Filipinos in my particular that are similar to me that grew up here, were brought here, were born and raised here. We never spoke the language. And I think a lot of that had to do with our parents wanting us to fit in better, right? Like my parents came here during the Vietnam War, and I think I don't know if this is true. Like nobody will talk to me about this, but I think part of it is that coming here during the Vietnam War, there was probably a tide of wanting to not stand out too much, right? And so there was that. So like my peers that are like me, none of them really speak the language. Like we had to learn on our own separately and with very poor effect, right? But I must say, like here in Baltimore, we have a large Korean community, and one thing that I was always impressed by the Koreans is that they were very good at teaching their kids the language. Like one of my good friends, Sang Moon, like, we're all the same age. He could speak, like in high school, he could speak fluently Korean. Now, I don't know if you dropped him in South Korea, whether or not South Koreans would be like, oh, you speak good Korean. They'd probably be like, you speak American Korean. Like you got your accents all mucked up. But he could speak, and that's an important part. He could speak and he could read. And there's something missing when you can't speak and read. There's something to be said about being able to read literature in the language of your mother country, right? At least that's how I felt. But I don't necessarily think that that's unlike other cultures. Like Selena Gomez would not be able to speak Spanish very well growing up in America. But, my friends who are of distinct ethnic descent, let's say they're German or Irish, they don't speak German or Gaelic or anything like that. So yeah, it's what happens, I think, in America, that you melange into what is hopefully a larger and more cohesive whole. Although that's to be debated in modern times. Man, now I need to get. Yes, you should. You should be getting like roasted marrons. No, that's not. You should be getting. What should you be getting today? In Germany, what should you get? Currywurst. Yeah, with chips. Huh? What would I get if I was in? You know what I'd be getting if I was in Germany? I'd be going to get pretzels. Well, you know what I'd be getting in Germany? If I was there right now, I would be getting in the car. Well, actually, it's already too late for this, probably, right? It's 11 o'clock here, so it's like, oh no, it's still time, 7 o'clock. I would be getting in the car. I'd be driving over to the Globus Baumarkt. Those of you who may not be familiar, there's a place called Globus Baumarkt. I think it's called Baumarkt, right? Basically, it is the German Home Depot. And it's kind of awesome. Like if you like Home Depots, you like tools, or you like, I don't know, like home repair kind of stuff. Like I think it's kind of awesome. Like I go there and I'm like, oh, like especially this time of year, you go there, and one of the cool things for the home, like here in America, we have Christmas trees, right? And we have these Christmas tree holders, right? You put the tree in it, and it's, these basins that have legs, and they have these like screws, and you have to screw them on, and you have to get them from like 3 or 4 different positions to hold the trunk in place. Man, it's super difficult. Like it's just a pain in the butt to do it. You're under the tree, you're getting pricked by all these like pricks, and you're trying to terrible. Like I would be at the Globus, I'd be looking around, like, oh my gosh, look at that. And they'd be like, big sign for the Tannenbaum, right? Oh, look at that. And they have the same kind of thing, but these Germans, man, I don't know what the deal is, right? I don't know why they haven't exported this to America. Maybe Germans are holding this for themselves. That they're just like, nine, we will not ship this to you, swine in America, right? But basically, it's this ratcheting system, like a super easy ratchet that has this kind of like collar that has a cable around it. And you just put the tree in and you ratchet, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I've always been tempted to buy one when I was there, but it's so heavy. Like, I'm like, oh, I can't, but I mean, can I put that in my bag? And will that put me over? So I was like, ah. So I never bought it, like I said, what I would buy at the Globus would be like outlets. Like I would buy like European outlets so that I could wire up at the shop, like, and why, like, I don't know why I'm doing that. I'm buying all this wires and like outlets. It's really kind of stupid, but that's what I would buy. But when you go to the Globus, here's the difference. Like you go to like here at Home Depot in America, in the old days of Home Depot, they stopped this for some reason. Anytime we went to Home Depot, there used to be this hot dog cart outside. You buy hot dogs, right? Kind of fun. For whatever reason, Home Depot decided, oh, you know what? The hot dog guy's making money. We don't want them to do that. Let's kick them all out. Globus is much better because you know how you go to IKEA here in America? Here in America, IKEA has a kitchen and you can buy food for cheap. Globus has the same thing. And I dare say the food is better, right? Like I'll go and have, don't get me wrong, I'll go to IKEA and I'll have the Swedish meatballs. All right, that's good times. But you go to Globus, man, and maybe the price has gone up in the last few years, but like you used to be able to go there for like 750 euros. You get the Schweinhaxe, right? And the Schweinhaxes are basically a ham hock, haxe, hock, right? The knuckle or the piece of pork that has been like boiled and smoked or whatever, cooked beautifully and flavored wonderfully. And you get that and a piece of Kaiser roll for like 750 euro. You're like, oh my God, man. And it's so much food and some fries. Right? They always give you the fries, right? You get that. I will buy that, have that for dinner. And then the next morning, I'm going to have that for my breakfast. So I'll usually buy an extra Kaiser roll to go with the breakfast. That's what I would be having if I was in Germany tonight. PowerPlan says it definitely has to do with your ethnicity and time period. All my friends whose parents came from East Asia were brought up only speaking their mother tongue at home and English. I respect that. I wish we had that, It was not a judgment. Yeah, no, I don't think that was a judgment. And I think part of that reasoning for Filipinos especially is that we have a history, a legacy of basically being under the thumb of America, right? Like in 1896, the Filipinos had enough of Spanish rule. They rose up against the Spanish government and basically toppled them. The United States came in and were like, oh no, we need to have this as our own resource. We need to export bananas like we talked about last week, right? So they came in, conquered the people again, wiped them all out, massacred them. I mean, it was so crazy that the 45 Colt was developed to kill Filipinos because the Filipinos, especially in the mid part of the country, were so pissed off that they were killing Americans and they were killing these invaders with bolo knives. So, these knives are about this big. I mean, they're butchering them. I mean, butchering them like, hey, the reality is that, nobody fights as hard as the people being invaded, right? They're going to fight. They're going to fight because you're the invader. Now, they did eventually have superior firepower, so they were able to massacre all the people that were fighting against them. But then after that, they brought in these educators to educate Filipinos in a way that they would feel that they would be subservient to the United States. Grew up thinking that way. So generations grew up like this. Since like the early 1900s, Filipinos were taught this way. And I think to a certain extent, they're still taught that way today. So generationally, there's this kind of like, we want to go to America. We want to be part of America. So I think part of it's when they came, when people in my parents' generation came here, they wanted to be in America. That was part of it, but also like, they came during the Vietnam War. So there's a big tide against Asians back then. So they didn't want that to be such a big issue for us growing up here to fit in. Kieran says during World War II, there were posters around Hawaii that said, speak English only. It was that generation that grew up then that lost their native, including Hawaiian. I mean, I hear you. I mean, especially in Hawaii, that's like the war. It's like, that's the ridiculous part. It's like, hey, this place is completely not like America. And at the same time that the Americans were conquering the Philippines, they were doing the same thing in Hawaii. So it was 1893 was when Queen Liliuokalani was overthrown by American forces. So there's a whole range of American imperialism that we kind of gloss over in American history. Like I grew up here in America, so I studied American history, and it's all glossed over, or just basically obfuscated and not even taught. But when I finally got to college and I started learning more about history and different venues of history, it's like, oh, now I'm angry. Powerplant says, granted, all the cases were from the late 80s to early 90s, but I do know a lot of Chinese and Koreans, baby boomers, who were brought up speaking their mother tongue at home. I mean that's fine. I mean, that's the generation I came from. So that's really where I kind of correlate to. And I see it, I still see it as a problem, right? Like my nieces and nephews, there's a whole bunch of them now, but so, some of them are growing up here with parents, my cousins who have immigrated from the Philippines. Like they're like my parents. So my nieces and nephews are like me, and they're like me because they don't speak the language either. And then there's my other nieces and nephew that are growing up here and their parents are like my generation, right? So or my generation of immigration, right? So they're a little bit more removed, and I'm like, it'd be nice if you taught them. It's like I would like. Well, it's too late. Now they're in high school, so it's already too late to teach them. But I don't think there's a. I think that if you grow up in a world where you don't have the language skills, you may want them, and you may find yourself wanting in the future. But if you grow up with them, it's just another tool for your arsenal. Like you'll never be wanting for it. Like you'll be like, well, I speak 2 languages, I speak 3 or 4 languages. But you're not going to be sitting there like, I wish I spoke that language, right? Prabhupada says, in Japan, there are still many restaurants and places that say no English, Japanese only, or invite only, meaning no foreigners. And I get that. I get that. It is, in fact, illegal, but not enforceable. I mean, as with anything, it's always a question of who's going to be willing to enforce it. And I haven't, I think part of me would like to rationalize that as, some people not being able to speak English well, so they feel embarrassed. But, I think that's just a rationalization. It's not necessarily reflection of the reality. I mean, it could just be that they're just racist, right? They just don't want anyone else but their own people. Which it's interesting because, as I grew up here in the United States, and as I've traveled around the world, while I think traveling around the world is an amazing thing to do, I think everyone should be doing it. But one of the things I always kind of thought was fascinating is that as I go to other countries and I spend time in other countries, and at one point I was going to move to Mexico, and while I love it there, when I thought about it, it's kind of strange because it's very, and this, I think this is true of so many countries. A lot of countries are very monoculture, right? It's just that way. Where here you grew up in America and it's very multicultural. So it's just an interesting difference. Like I remember in Mexico City years ago, and I'm sure it's changed now, but I remember my girlfriend was asking me, "Hey, what about Filipino food? Can we get some?" And I was like, "Yeah, there has to be a restaurant here, right?" So I'm calling around. I'm looking on Google for a Filipino restaurant. Mexico City. Mexico City is the second largest metropolis in the world. 20 million people. And I'm looking on Google, Filipino restaurants in Mexico City. I mean, we have Filipinos all over the world. There are restaurants and markets everywhere on the planet. I can find Filipino food almost anywhere. But in Mexico City, there's not listing. And I was like, what's going on here? And I couldn't find any. So finally I got to the point that I was like, I'm just going to have to go to the source. So I looked up the phone number for the Philippine embassy in Mexico City, right? The official Philippine government. I called them up. I spoke to this counselor and I was like, hey, are there any Filipino restaurants in the city? And she was like, no. It's like, what are you talking? I mean, no, how is that possible? And like, I was like, oh, there are no. So it was just a strange. It's just interesting to go to different countries and like things are a bit, and that's where you really start to see the difference with America. But then conversely, you'll go to other countries and like where they do have diversity, or you'll see diversity in other countries, and you're kind of like, oh, that's weird. Like for example, Peru had a president named Fujimori, Japanese Peruvian guy. You're like, what? There's Japanese in Peru? There's huge Japanese population in Peru. Huge populations of other ethnicities. Like if you go to like Uganda, there's huge populations of Indians. Like chapati is part of the like local like food scene. You're like, huh? Chapati, isn't that Indian? Like, yeah. Indians have been here for generations. Like, oh wow. So it's a fascinating world out there. Fascinating. Anton says, call the embassy to ask what restaurants. I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures. But the consular, she was totally like, yeah, no, no, there's no restaurants. It's like, I can't believe that. All right. So there is some of the post roast espresso. Still really nice results. Like you, and like Q&A said that, oh, I didn't think that was allowed or not well practiced, but you could do whatever you want, and that's the beauty of coffee. Like you can do whatever you want. Like I know you always run into people like on forums or whatever that'll be like, oh no, oh no, oh no. Like since I've been doing a lot of reading the woodworking forums, I see a lot of that. It's like somebody asks a question that they may not know, they may be new, they may be experienced, but they just don't know. Always is there's more than enough people that are going to give you snide remarks, and it's like, oh, or poo-poo what you're doing, or look down upon you for thinking that, or whatever. But in coffee, just like in woodworking, anything's possible. Everything is game, right? It's if you have a curiosity, it's good to explore it, right? Maybe it's not going to work out. Maybe you're going to hate the results, but the most important thing is that you get to know that you're going to hate it. You're like, then you can be one of the guys on the forum. Like, oh no, that's just rubbish. That's rubbish. Well, you don't want to do that. Don't waste your time, right? But then from experience, rather than like from what somebody else may have said. It's like, and you're like just regurgitating. Don't regurgitate. Right? That's why I try not to. That's why on our live streams, I never try to speak in absolutes. Like there's nothing absolute here. Everything is possible. Anything can be done. Like you could do post-roast blending, and maybe the choices that you made may be terrible. Like it may be horrible. There's always that possibility. But as long as you continue and try and continue to learn and continue to strive to improve, it only gets better. It really does. Like, and the coffee is very like, a lot of you probably look at this like, oh my God, why? How could that ever taste good? Because look at the variation in color, right? Now, if you're doing post-roast blending, you don't have to go to this level of like color variation. Like it can be very similar, like color-wise, right? Like your Agtron ratings could be very similar to each other, but in this case, they're not. But the result can be very good. And that's what you kind of want to think of. You want to think about the coffees that you're using, how you may want to roast it, what kind of results you're going to get from that particular style of roasting with that particular coffee. And then think about how would that go together with other coffees? Maybe I want to tweak it a certain way. Now, like I said, I kind of got interrupted on, but this type of roasting is more intensive, right? You've got to roast everything separately and then blend it all together. And then one of the most important things is you want to make sure that your blend is well homogenized. So mixing it is really important. Like I used to, when we did a lot more post-roast blending, we had a big like drum mixer that we put it in there and let it homogenize for like 20 minutes to make sure that it gets fully incorporated. Now, when you're roasting two or three or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 coffees together, and you're doing pre-roast blending, and you're putting all that in the roaster, of course, during that roast cycle, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, if you want to go slow and do 40 minutes, that's up to you. That gets completely homogenized during the roasting process. So these are some of the strategies that you might consider in your own roasting at home. And, like I'm doing larger scale roasting, but it can be scaled down to whatever size roaster you're using. Power plant says there's a power in saying I think before. No doubt, no doubt. And one of the things that I think about also is that there's a good power in not speaking. Like, especially when I meet new people, like when I'm out in the world and I meet people that I don't know for the very first time, I try to be as quiet as possible. Like, I'll talk, I'll engage, I'll be friendly, but I won't try to tell people about what I think too much, right? Like, I'm not going to like give them theories and as much as may want to, because you know what? Here's the thing, and I think a lot of you will probably share in this stuff. But when you meet new people, you're always kind of like a little bit apprehensive. You're like, who is this person, and will we like them? Will this person fit in with our group? And you're like, well, I don't know, man. I don't know. So I think that I could be thought of as an a-hole, right? Depending on how I might present myself. But you know what? I don't want to encourage people to think that about me without getting to know me first. Let them get to like me first before I do things that will make them realize that I am a jerk off to them. So that's the important thing. Don't speak too much before you need to. That's just my thought. That's my thought. Anton says, I read somewhere that the end temperature is more important than the color reading. I mean, end temperature, color reading, it all kind of goes together to a certain extent. I mean, honestly, I tend not to like, I mean, once I like, let's say like when I was roasting the other day, like I'm establishing like because the coffees are changing, right? The green coffee changes daily pretty much. And then your conditions are different, right? Some days you may have more humidity. Some days it may be colder. You may have fluctuations in temperature. Things are changing, right? So, and then as the more you roast, the metal, if you're using cast iron, gets more saturated with the heat. So the way that it applies the heat through the metal through conduction is different than it was earlier in the roast. So things are changing. So as I'm roasting, I'm actually kind of like maybe changing things to a certain extent. So let's say the first roast or first 2, 3, 4 roasts, let's say I roast up to a point that I want to be at and I dump the load. And let's say it's like 11 minutes, 45 seconds, and it turns out to be 418 degrees. Maybe those next ones will be the same, but maybe they won't be the same. But really, I'm not holding to that. I am looking to see that how is the temperature rising through that roast? Does it kind of mirror what's happening before? Because what I'm looking for I'm looking for uniformity in roast, especially if it's the same coffee, right? So if I'm roasting the same coffee multiple batches, I need those batches to be as uniform as possible. So some of that's going to be the way that it rises, the way throughout the roast profile, throughout the roast time. And then some of it's going to be the color. I mean, we want the color to match because you don't want two colors to be, blended together. You're like, well, what's going on here? What happened to these guys, right? And then hopefully that temperature ends at the same, right? But a lot of times it's going to be different every time, right? Some days that may end up 418, some days it may end up 408. So, it's when I started roasting, my mentor was like, yeah, 420. So 420. All right, that's good. That's good. But the more you get into it, the more you do it, the better you get. And the more, like I feel like the more that I do something, the more I get a feel for it. Like you see when I'm making the espresso, it's not like I'm not really I'm not doing a lot of measuring. It's all by feel, right? It's all by like, I'm just feeling it, right? I just want to let it speak to me. Let it do its thing and like work with it and flow with it. That's really to me how to get really nice results. Now, results as we saw here, perhaps are not necessarily consistent, right? There are variations. We saw variations here today with the 3 different shots that we drank, right? The first, second, and then the Americano all had a little bit different profiles. Still all very good, right? So I think it's a question of what your goal is. If you want hyper consistency, then that's when you want to look more towards, okay, I used 21.2 grams here, and I used it at whatever this micron level of grinding fineness is, and I had it running for 24 seconds, and I got 1.2 ounces out of it. Those could be things that, and And one of the other things that I meant to say earlier was that while we are looking with the shots, like, and I am using it all by feel at the moment and by flow. There is a part of me that wants to see certain consistencies, right? Like, for example, the ideal shot that I work with is that one that produces a shot 1.5 to 2 ounces in volume, total volume, that runs between 25 to 29 seconds, right? Now, let's say we correlate that to a certain weight. Then I want all of that to happen. I want all that to converge in the same frame. So let's say we want to have 38 grams, right? So then and then if I'm testing it, then if I run tests on it, then I want it to be 38 grams in weight, whatever that volume is total, and I want it to happen in 24 to 29 seconds. So then you manipulate everything around it to achieve that. Now, that's generally what's happening here. I've already gone through all that over the years to try to hopefully have some level of tactile feel to have what I want. As you can see, there is variation, but just some thoughts for you to think about. And PowerPoint says a wise man once said nothing at all. Well, that's definitely not me because I talk a lot. Right now, 1 hour, 32 minutes. All right, so that's pretty much it for today. We'll be back again. Maybe we're back again tomorrow. It depends what happens with my turkey cooking tomorrow, but we may come back tomorrow to see what's going on. But hopefully have a great one. If not, maybe not Friday. If not, at the latest Monday. But we'll see. It'll kind of be flying by the seat of our pants as far as all of this goes. So thank you very much for tuning in. Good to see all of you. Hope you have a wonderful day. Tomorrow is a holiday here in the United States. So Thanksgiving, which is the day that all of us give thanks for the people who have conquered all the Indians and massacred them and slaughtered them and, that kind of thing. Actually, one of my good friends who is Native American never celebrates tomorrow. He's always like, but for me, it's just a matter, for me, it's two things. I get to eat turkey, which is a once a year thing. And I get to try to find a way, can I make the turkey in a way that's still juicy and flavorful? Most of the time, I've been able to get it right. 2 years ago, not so much. This year, so we normally fry or roast or smoke. Last year was roasting. No, last year was frying. The year before was roasting. This year, we're going to do smoking. But I haven't done smoking in like 10 years. So I'm going to smoke it up. I got the turkey thawed. It's been dry brining for the last 24 hours. So 48-hour brine. Hopefully, we should be good. This year, I went for straight salt, no herbs. I'll do the herbs tomorrow before it goes in the smoker. Going to use mesquite because, I like Keave, but we don't have Keave here in the mainland, so I have to get something close. Mesquite is kind of close to it, but I might mix in some apple. I'm not sure yet. Haven't decided. Craig says the day people buy something, no, that's the day after. That's the day after. Black Friday starts on Friday, which is why we might have a stream because I'm thinking I might go to this Black Friday sale up in Pennsylvania. It's like, go to Philadelphia, go hang out with the guys there. And as a German says, Anton, yeah, why would you celebrate? Why should you celebrate the massacre of American Indians? Don't celebrate that. Just have a good day off. Or no, just take a day off. Bruce is with us. Have a great holiday weekend, man. I use a smoker that's called the Cook Shack. It's by a company called Cook Shack. It is the Fast Eddie FC100, and it's actually a very old smoker. It's about 20 years old now, and it's actually what they call as a competition smoker. It's all stainless steel construction. It has a Traeger controller. This is before Traeger ever started building their own grills. Like now you see Traeger grills all over the place. So it's a Traeger controller with auger system. So it's a pellet smoker, but it is a competition pellet smoker. When I got it because I used to be partners in a barbecue business. And my friend who was the pit master, he was the guy that knew all. And at the time we started this, I had no idea. I knew nothing about barbecue. I just like to eat it every once in a while, but I knew nothing. So I got into this business and we started doing it. And he made amazing barbecue, amazing. We got 4 stars by the Baltimore Sun. I mean, we were And then he had a massive heart attack, and that kind of ended the business. So, because I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned about barbecue after that. And as I learned, I became I became a judge for the Kansas City Barbecue Society. So I learned a lot about barbecue. I started like as I was traveling, I would eat more barbecue, did tours of Texas barbecue, had like whole hog barbecue down in the Carolinas. Had a lot of barbecue now. And I got to say, man, the barbecue we used to make was stellar, like stellar barbecue. Especially now that I look back upon, like, oh, now that I have the knowledge of what good barbecue is, we made pretty darn good barbecue. But we had 2 smokers. And so when the business was over, he took one, I got the other. I was like, all right, got this big smoker. And so I've been smoking everyone. I don't smoke as much as I would like to, but I finally refurbished it a couple months ago, cleaned it all up, lubricated it, got it rolling again because it got kind of jammed. And so now we're ready to go again, ready to go. Oh, Busa is familiar with it. Okay, great. Great smokers. Yes, yes. Oh, you also smoke Q as well. Oh, nice. Nice, dude. Nice. We'll have to compare notes next time. Maybe I'll try to save some of the food for Monday. Because one of my favorite things, not just the turkey, but one of my favorite things to do to make after Thanksgiving is stuffing waffles. God, I love that. It's my favorite thing to eat. It's like you take your leftover stuffing, you shove it in a waffle iron, you close it, and you like just bake it till it's like crispy. And you're like, it's good. It's good. Good. So, all right. Well, that's going to be it for today. Maybe we'll do something tomorrow. Maybe. It'll be a last minute thing, but definitely not back on Monday. So hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week and out there. Thank you for tuning in. Good to see you. Finally, I have the gift guide video that I talked about last week. That's going to release tomorrow. I just finished editing it like this morning. It took a little while. So some of your input is in there as far as the gifts that we're suggesting. So thank you very much for that. And Busa says, I use an M1 smoker and an upright barrel smoker called the Hunsaker. Oh, I am familiar with the Hunsaker. I'm not familiar with the M1, sorry. Angelo's in Philly, best pizza and cheesesteaks. My problem is that I'm not going to be in Philly proper. I'll probably be in Huntington Valley if I go on Friday. So it's like, God, it's like 2.5 hours away, but it's like on the outside north of the city. And I just never seem to have enough time to go into the city. I might try to this time, but we'll see. Angelo's, I'll remember that. All right. So hope you have a great one and see you next time.